Welcome back to another riveting episode of Trash and Treasure Garage, where today I join you with my lovely assistant Grayson and a 2010 Toyota Yaris. Our mission with this car is a post-purchase inspection. My buddy just picked it up for a commuter, so we're going to be going from the car top to bottom, front to back, and see what may need addressed before it is ready for his commute. Let's dig in.
Yeah, let's dig in.
All right, so we'll start just looking under the hood real quick. This is a 163,000 mile car. This is the Toyota 1.5. Same thing that was in the, I believe, the Scion IA and some other cars. But mostly the Yaris. This is a really, really good engine. I'm not really aware of even any common problems with these. I've even heard in my dealership days that the 1.5 is better than the 1.8. Looks like a recent oil change. Oil's nice and clean and full, almost hard to see on the stick.
Yeah.
Not really too much to see under here. We have what looks like a little bit older battery. We'll definitely load test that. Some kind of note written here. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I see is a T, whatever that means. T for Toyota, maybe. So we've got, we'll pop the air cleaner. We'll look at that when we get the thing in the shop. But, so far, it looks pretty honest. It's all there. It's all pretty complete.
Pretty good.
Yeah. If we walk around the car, let's see, it's pretty straight. We got some rust coming in the common spot around the rear wheels here. We're missing the wheel covers, but we do have a really nice new looking set of Lionheart tires on it.
Yeah.
So, for the price point of the car, just having new tires is awesome. We'll get a look at the tread depth on those and make sure that they're in the right spots. We'll rotate them if we need to. And, same thing around here. All four tires match. We've got some more rust coming up over here. And it looks like they repaired it once. The camera may not be picking it up, but there's definitely a mismatch in paint between right here and right here. But it doesn't look like there's been body work. I think it's just people trying to get rid of the wheel well rust coming through, which is unfortunately what does a lot of these cars in. The Yaris actually has one of the cooler features, word choice intended, that I've ever seen in a car in this price point. You really don't see air-conditioned cup holders much in economy cars, but there you go. You put your can in there, you turn on the AC, and it keeps your drink cold. What more do you want? I would argue that the Yaris is kind of the end of the cheap, basic, uber reliable Toyotas that were really this brand's, where this brand built their reputation through the 80s and 90s. It's a small, simple car. There's no touch screens. There's no fancy gadgets. It's got everything you need and really nothing you don't.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and start it up. You want to start it?
How do we start it, Dad?
Put the key in and turn it.
Start it up.
Good job, buddy. So we got our center gauges there, and really all you get is a speedometer and a couple little things in the digital panel next to it to tell you how much gas you have and what gear you're in and such. And simple, but little to go wrong. The engine sounds great, no funky noises. You can hear a little tick as it comes up to temp here. It is cold, but overall, so far, everything looks great. So let's get this thing in the shop and get underneath it. All right, so we're in the shop and on the hoist. Let's get our first look underneath this thing together. Starting at the back here, there's some rust. It's a 15-year-old car that's presumably spent its whole life here in the great state of Michigan. One of the things that the previous generation, the Toyota Echo, was known for was rust on these subframes. This car doesn't really have a rear subframe per se, but just looking at our suspension mounting points, looking around at all various components here. I left it running because I heard an exhaust leak. That's definitely had some very, very special exhaust work done to it. And that little leak that's making all the big noise is right here where this hanger attaches. So there's a hole where that's working on rusting off from the pipe. We got some rust along the rocker panels. Nothing so far that's really unexpected for a 15-year-old Michigan car. And if I've got any of the 3 people watching this video happen to live down south and don't see rusty cars like this, don't panic. This is what pretty much everything looks like in Michigan. It's great. That's why we come to where y'all live to buy cars that are more than a few years old, because we don't want to deal with rust.
Yeah. Plus, you got what you want.
A cooling fan just kicked on and then kicked back off. I don't know if I've got the frost might be on. Let's put the light back on here so you can see a little bit better. We've got some kind of asterisk drawn on the oil filter. That's neat. Don't know why they did that. Looking around though, I don't see any concerning leaks.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a weep right there where the looks like it might be coming down from the valve cover, running down the side of the block. We'll have to get a good look at that when we get up there. There's our cooling fan cycling on again. So quick on, quick off. So yeah, it probably has the defrost on. Good to know that that works. I don't see anything out of sorts here. Can't really tell much about the brakes just yet, but we'll pull the wheels off. How are we looking on the suspension's tight? I drove the car off camera and the car drove great, but I do hear some wheel bearing noise. So I'll have to get a good look there. But so far, initial impressions are looking pretty good here. Like my next step is going to be pulling off the rear wheels. I think it's the right rear wheel that I'm hearing that bearing on. And there's a little bit of brake pulse too, which is probably going to be up in the front. Yeah. And then we'll see about what we could maybe do with this really super special exhaust pipe here that wasn't necessarily done the best.
Yeah.
All right, so we got the car in the shop and up on the hoist. I was hearing a bearing noise pretty bad from the rear when I drove it. Well, let's just start looking for that. So you probably can't hear anything on camera. I'll get you right up in here, but there's nothing to hear. This one is dead silent. Dead silent is bad, actually. This isn't our bearing problem, but this car has rear drum brakes because, you know, simple Toyota. We should have the shoes dragging a little bit. So the fact that this wheel will just sit here and literally just free spin forever tells us our bearing's great, but our brakes aren't. So we'll be pulling that apart to take a look. Let's go look at the other side of the rear because that's got to be where our problem is. All right, here's the other side in the rear. I've got my trusty assistant giving it a spin. And I can already hear some bearing noise. Let me give this a little bit faster spin and get the microphone right by it. I don't know how well the microphone's going to do at picking that up, but that is 100% a very bad wheel bearing. Definitely sounds all grindy and crunchy and whatnot as they do. So we know we need a wheel bearing there, and the brakes are out of adjustment on this side as well. So that's where we are so far. Let's keep digging.
Yeah.
How's that one sound, buddy?
But I'm making some noise when I spin it.
All right, let me come around and see it. All right, let me see.
Also spinning the other side.
Yeah, that'll happen because it's a front-wheel drive car and the 2 front wheels are connected together.
Oh. That's
I don't immediately hear anything with the bearing up here. I think we're good there. Let's take a look at the other side. All right, how's that right front looking?
good. It's making like that much noise.
I don't suspect these bearings are bad up here. Our ball joints feel good. There's no play in the steering. I think he may have picked a good one. I know we did have that pulsation in the front brakes. We need to check the rears as well. So we'll go ahead and get the wheels off in the front and see what our brakes are looking like. Oh, apparently somebody wanted to show off their strength putting these lug nuts in. Just that bottom one, though. One more time, the feeling. There we go. The other ones just had to go first to show it was okay. Why wouldn't that be stuck on? And for the Ford tool. Let's see if the Ford tool gets it off. Whenever you do this, it's very important to put a lug nut back on for a few threads, so that the tire doesn't come off and bounce across your shop. Oh my goodness. That's on there, but good. Took a few more whacks, but I got it. I had to move the camera to stand where it was to get the right leverage, so you missed it. Just picture more swinging the sledgehammer and try not to swear on camera. But I emerged victorious. Undefeated in the battle of the Toyota. What do we got going here? Alright, so here's our first look at the running gear here. Starts to seen better days. If I had to guess, my buddy's not going to want to do struts. But definitely, these rotors have quite a rust ridge. They're very grooved. I can feel in the back. The pads are probably at about, without taking it apart to measure, probably 5 or 6 millimeters. So you could, you see the inner one there, it's about the same. You could make an argument that you could go a little ways. Somebody probably pad slapped this at some point, and that's why it is the way it is. But I'm going to recommend we do pads and rotors in the front. So another thing I want to check while we're in here is the state of these tires. They look great. Well, let's measure our tread depth. A few key spots here. So this tire that came off the right front is at 8/32 in the center. That's great. Brand new, it was probably at 10. And I want to look in the sidewall here as well, just to see if they're due for a rotation. The tread's not as deep in the sidewall, but it's at 6/32 there. So if I come over and look at that same spot in the rear, where we're in the center, we are at 9/32 in the middle, and measuring in that same spot, we are at 7/32. So I think that we will probably rotate the rear tires to the front and vice versa, just to help even out the tread wear. All right, so we've got the rear wheel off, and that took more sledgehammering. As you can see, the old Ford tool is still just hanging out here, resting from its adventures. I do have to take a quick moment to shout out whoever came up with the idea. I say this mostly on the Japanese cars, but whoever came up with the idea to put threaded holes in the brake drum that you could run bolts into to help push it off the hub once it was rusted there, thanks for that on behalf of every rust belt mechanic. Although these bolts are about as tight as I can get them without fear of breaking them off, and we're still not seeing anything resembling an intention for this drum to move. And yes, one's an Allen and one's a regular socket head. That's what I had laying around. Now, with those tight, I think I'm just going to give it a little persuasion here and see if that helps. Nothing. Let's try tightening these up a little more. I just really don't want to snap one off. Not a good day when that happens. Go over. I don't dare get those much tighter. We're going to be just about 3% smarter here too, and try to lug nut on just in case I He-Maned those things on there so good that the brake drum is going to come flying off with a bang. It's possible. See all the stuff falling out of the bottom of that? I don't know if the camera's pointed low enough, but I can only imagine why this thing's just free spinning. That one hasn't budged. I think this Allen head came from an Audi. That may be the reason this isn't cooperating. Kind of looks like I'm starting to distort that drum. It's always a game of using just enough brute persuasion when you're not sure if you're replacing the drums or not. Because I don't want to hit the thing hard enough to hurt it and then find out that I otherwise wouldn't have needed to replace it. But I also don't want to spend my entire evening out here trying to get this thing off either. Alright, let's ramp the violence up a little bit. I can see the drum moving now. Increasing the danger of this going bang. I like it. There we go. And that's how that works. Oh hey, that lug nut's stopping the drum from coming off. That's why I won't just slide off. Oh boy. There is sweet nothing left of these shoes. Look at that. That is absolutely done. The trailing shoe isn't too bad, but man, that is right down to the metal. The drum itself looks okay, but this bad lad's gonna need some rear brakes. Which is fine, because we've got to take the rear brakes apart on the other side to do that bearing anyway. Alright, so back up under the hood, there's really just a couple things I want to go circle back on here. First one's testing this battery, because it does look like an older battery. And of course, we're up here in Michigan where it gets cold. I'm disconnecting it because we got a lot of green crunchies and crusties here on the positive terminal, and the whole outside of the terminal is corroded, and I don't know that that's going to be a real accurate test if we have the tester hooked up to that versus the battery post. So I'll get this out and clean up I'll get this disconnected, clean up the posts, since that really needs to be done anyway. That'll also help make sure that we have a accurate look at the actual condition of the battery. Alright, borrowed my son's toothbrush. Get that cleaned up real quick. Just kidding, it's a small wire brush. Might brush some of the sass out with that though. I might have to suggest it. Alright, so if you're not familiar with this tool, this is a wire brush on the inside here. And then this cap pops off. There's a brush there that does the female side of the connection. So you just pop this onto the terminal, spin it around a few times, and work it until it's nice and shiny like brand new. Don't really do anything on the positive side unless the negative side is disconnected, just because you don't want to find out that you bumped something metal the hard way, because even if this battery's bad, it's still going to have enough juice in it to make me regret being the thing that connected it back to the metal in the car. We got a little bit of deeper corrosion on this post. We're getting there. All right, that's probably pretty good. I'll get the inside of this one. Nice and clean and shiny. Still dingy on the outside, but it's what's on the inside that counts. Positive's in a little rougher shape, but we'll fix it. Alright, that's not looking half bad. Alright, let's get the tester on this. Alright, so what I have here is just an inexpensive tester that you can pick up for, I think it was like $30 or $40 on Amazon. It just clamps to the battery leads. We're going to input some data about the battery. We'll do the standard test. Couldn't tell you what the difference is between them. This is a regular battery. We're going to go by cold cranking amps. Yes, the engine's off. And this is a 640 cold cranking amp battery. I'll see what we get. Alright, so we're looking really good. 88.9% life. I don't know how this little thing comes up with this, but it measured 612 cold cranking amps. Battery's fully charged. That suggests that our charging system is probably working fine on the car, but let's go ahead and test that too. So when I select to test the charging system, if you can't read it there on the video, it says turn the headlights on for 3 seconds, then off, then keep engine speed above 2,500 RPM for 3 seconds, which we'll have to play by ear as this thing doesn't have a tachometer, and then press OK to test. So I'm going to go start the car, and we'll go through the thing with the headlights and rev it up, and then we'll see how it tests. But given that the battery's fully charged, I'm thinking we're going to be just fine. Did you know that you can't start the car with the battery disconnected? I know. Big shock. All right, take 2. Battery's hooked up. It should help. Okay, we got our headlights on for 3 seconds. And back off. So I don't know what RPM I'm at, but hold it up enough to make sure the alternator's charging, as I'm sure what the machine's actually asking for when it says 2,500 RPM. And now we press OK to test. So we're running through the testing process. Takes just a couple minutes. Again, I don't know how something with such thin cables is putting enough of a load on it to know any better, but what do we got? 14.23 maximum voltage with a 0.13 volt ripple, charge voltage okay. Looks like a successful test to me. So, as far as we can see, our electrical system is in fine shape on this fine automobile. All right, let's move on and check out some other things here. The airbox is already halfway unclipped. Maybe that means it's already been checked. Maybe that means whoever changed the filter last didn't ever bother putting it back together right. She could use an air filter. Not the worst that I've ever seen, but we'll put it on the list and see if he wants to do it. Okay, well, that can stay just like that. Let's see, what does our coolant look like? This is where we need to remember that we were running this. It shouldn't be long enough for any pressure to have built though. It's full, and it's Toyota colored. I suppose I could dip it and see, but not an immediate concern. We'll recommend some maintenance because I don't think we have any service history with this car, but not a dire situation. No chocolate milk, nothing like that. Here's our transmission dipstick, and we're not checking how full it is right now simply because it has to be running to do that, but let me get a clean white paper towel here. Yes, there are some clean things out in my shop, thank you. So, it doesn't look bad. It's pinkish. It wouldn't hurt to change it. I might recommend it, but also it's such a tough line to walk with inspecting a vehicle like this because the last thing I want to do is give somebody who's trying to buy a inexpensive car to run back and forth to work through the Michigan winter. It is a repair bill or repair and maintenance bill that comes close to what they paid for the car. Some of these things are just going to be suggestions, and we'll go from there. And that's one of the reasons that I don't like doing this professionally. Why I no longer do this professionally, and just work on cars for me, cars for my friends and family. It's such a hard line to walk because if you don't recommend everything the car needs and they have a failure, they come back and they blame you for not pointing it out. But if you write up the full book on here's everything you could do to make this car perfectly reliable, well, now you're a scam and a crook and just trying to soak them for extra money. And it's just not how I like to spend my day. I can see the brake cylinder behind the battery here. It's full. Since we're going to be doing brakes front and rear, we'll definitely go ahead and also do a brake fluid flush on this car. I'm going to go and price out some parts. One other thing I forgot to mention is the AC in this car is like ice cold. I know it's only like 50 degrees outside right now today in November in mid-Michigan, but that is definitely working exactly right, and the heat is hot as well. You guys remember when working AC in a car that was more than like 5 years old was kind of like, okay, cool, wasn't sure to expect that or not. Nowadays, like you pull a 15-year-old car in the shop, and sure enough, the air blows ice cold. And I don't know if it's ever been serviced, but I could believe that it hasn't. This car really doesn't look like it's had a whole lot of work done to it over the years. These are just really good, solid little cars. All right, now we'll go price out some parts. So I wrote up an estimate and my customer wants to fix the car. So parts are on order. They should probably all be here by about next weekend. So keep an eye out for part 2 in the 2010 Toyota Yaris series. And let me know down in the comments. Do you think this is a good car? Did he choose well? If yes, why? If not, why? Would you be putting money into a car like this to go back and forth to work? What would you do? I'm always curious to hear what people's take is on some of these older cars that we work on here. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, subscribing, and sharing. I'll see you next time on Treasure Garage.